Hello everyone and welcome to the Round 8 Roundup reaction. Bit of a delayed one on this Tuesday evening at 9pm. A little bit later than what we're normally used to. We're normally digesting TLT at this point, but I think TLT is now TLW. I think teams are coming out tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So for those of you who are wondering when the team list will come out, I believe it's tomorrow at 11 o'clock. But yeah, I'm thinking that this week is going to be a bit of carnage coming into this week. Melbourne Storm obviously on a bye, a few players getting injured in that very last game. Tohu Harris, Nickel Klukstad with the failed HIA. Garrick has been reported as moving to the centres, probably in tomorrow's team list. Turbo, there's doubts about him and his performance, so just lots of stuff I think that people need to be considering this week. And yeah, obviously round 8 was a bit painful for some. In terms of how I scored 1152, which I think I'm happy with. Looking around at other scores in other leagues that I'm in, I think if you got an 1100 plus, it's a pretty good week. If you're in the 1050 to 1100 bracket, I think you're fine. 1100 plus is looking pretty good. I think if you've cracked 1200, you've had a pretty good week. So that's kind of how I feel about par scores and stuff. I wasn't able to take the average and stuff, just didn't have time yet. But yeah, and as I mentioned at the top in the chat of the stream, I'll be trying to do this a little bit quicker than I normally do because I am having to wake up very early tomorrow. I've got a flight tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So yeah, anyone who wasn't or didn't catch last week's stream, so I will be going overseas from tomorrow for about a week and a half. So very low chance of doing a proper content this week and next week. I will try to obviously post team updates and stuff on Twitter and stuff. So if you're not following me there, do so. I should still have internet and everything. If I can, I'll try to scrounge up some kind of a video just with maybe a general thing on hot topics and questions and all that kind of stuff. So keep them coming in. I just probably can't promise anything quality-wise for the next week and a half. I don't know if you all can hear that, the big train outside. But yeah, that's why I wanted to do the stream today as well, just to try to cover off some of your initial questions as well coming into this week. But yeah, there probably won't be too much more for me to get into apart from this week. So hello to Mike Hart, Davey K, Hiddy, Liam, Jackson, Justin Mitchell saying he's the best with 1336. If that's true, that is an amazing score. Hamish, Shots, Peter, Brods, Michael Richards, Jared, Clone Commander, Ian Johnson, Supergun, as always, Queenslander, Steezers. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining in the stream. It's a late time, so I appreciate you guys being here at this very late time. Schuster being painful. Eli Katoa, yep, Eli Katoa. I didn't hear confirmation if he had a failed HIA, but yeah, he obviously went out. And taking a quick look at the buys and the rounds coming up. So Melbourne being out this week is obviously huge. Grant owners, Munster owners, etc. We're all going to be kind of having to try to scrounge up a 17 this week. And also the injuries to someone like Nickel Klukstad. If you have a failed HIA, especially with a new 11-day mandatory stand-down period, the Warriors are actually a team, only one of 3 teams this season where having a failed HIA would mean missing 2 games. So Nickel Klukstad, I think, is going to fall into that bracket. So he's going to miss this week and round 10. And then round 11 he'll play, but then round 12 he's got to bye. So yeah, Nickel Klukstad owners a bit hard done by there. So, he's maybe someone who is annoying because he covers round 13, but, missing 3 of the next 4 could be something that you look to move on if you're looking to jump on maybe a Manu who scored well today with 87. Who else did that? Garrick is an interesting one now. Titans is a great matchup, but apparently he's being moved to centre. The only question I have is that the reports that I saw for Tom Trbojevic, so I know he's a big talking point coming into this week, and look, he did not look 100% at all. Even up until this point, we didn't think he was looking 100%, and it was clearly evident against the Tigers. So he's someone who I think a lot of people are going to sell this week. Even with the Titans matchup, he's going to lose a lot of money, so he's going to be very, very cheap. That is the downside of Turbo. And the obvious candidate would be Latrell. Latrell had another 100-plus game against a very good Panthers team, and Rabbitohs are just looking, obviously we haven't even spoken about that game, what an exciting game it was, 20-18. So, Latrell is looking really good. Goal kicking is still probably early enough before Origin that it's still worth getting in. And the draw is still pretty good now that this Panthers matchup is out of the way. Broncos, Melbourne is fine, but then you've got Tigers, Parramatta, Canberra, he won't play that Canberra matchup, but the next 4 for Latrell, he's fine. I think he'll play quite well, and he should score pretty well too. So he's an option. I think if you're looking around a bit closer to the budget of Turbo, Gutherson could be a consideration. So he scored pretty well again this week. I think he scored in the 80s, 86 he scored. and he's 665k, and he had a break even of 56. So he'll be fairly within range of price. If you're looking for if you can't stretch up to Latrell, maybe Gutherson is a shout because they'll have the Knights, Titans, Raiders, and then Rabbitohs, and then the Cowboys in round 13. So Gutherson is an option. I know Will Kennedy. I'm seeing a few people saying, Justin Mitchell saying, should I go Kennedy to Teddy? Look, if you're considering someone like I know your question specifically wasn't about going Will Kennedy, but I would rather Gutherson, I think, over Will Kennedy. Like, Will Kennedy scored a hat-trick and scored 99 points. So, that's not ideal. I really like this suggestion as well from Jared, Lockie Miller. Now, Lockie Miller's obviously a bit in the pricier bracket, but I do like him for the perspective of he's got good underlying stats. Like, his base stats are really good, and he's not goal kicking well, but he is goal kicking. Knights are looking pretty good, though a little bit unfortunate to not win that match against the Cowboys. But 84 points with only the single try assist. But, he's very busy. 6 points net in goal kicks, 12 points in tackle bust, 24 points in runs. You're looking at a floor there of about 40. So, you're going to always get a pretty decent score. He is expensive, though. So I think around the price bracket, probably Gutherson, if you are looking to sell Turbo, I think it really depends on the sell Turbo is an interesting one because it's a good Titans matchup, but he's not looking 100%, and I think a lot of people are probably going to be selling him anyway before Origin. So I think this might just be an excuse to get rid of him, especially if he gets ruled out this week. If he's playing, I would still maybe be tempted to keep him, but then it's Broncos, Sharks. Sharks do concede points. He's not going to play round 13. Yeah, look, I can see the argument for getting rid of Turbo this week because he's obviously not looking 100%, and he could just keep plodding along with 40s and 50s if he does continue to play. So I don't mind the actual option of going for like one of the center wing types, like the Lockie Millers. I mean, maybe Garrick, Scott Drinkwater. I can see Steezer says Drinkwater season in the chat. He is at a good price at 587k. So he will go up in price, but you probably would be able to do a straight Turbo down to Drinkwater trade. In terms of Drinkwater's draw, so the Cowboys' golden run has pretty much come to an end now. It's the Sharks, the Roosters, but you do have Tigers. You have Dragons, Tigers, and then Parramatta. Covers round 13, which is good. So yeah, I don't mind Drinkwater's pod. He does look the biggest attacking weapon in the Cowboys. Cowboys are not really scoring enough points, but at least he himself has looked good upon his kind of return from that 3-game suspension. So yeah, I don't mind Drinkwater. Like I'm thinking of guys around the price bracket of Turbo. It'd be Gutherson, it'd be Drinkwater, and it would be maybe Will Kennedy. Of the three, Gutherson is nice for just overall buy coverage, but I do like Drinkwater, the fact that he does have that Dragons West Tigers matchup in around 11 and 12, and he also does cover round 13. Only issue with Drinkwater is that as a longer term option, Melbourne round 14 is not great, then he's got to buy, then it's Penrith and then Rabbitohs. So during that Origin period, he's probably not fantastic, whereas at least with Gutherson, you got within that Origin period, you got Bulldogs, Manly, Dolphins. Like there are some better matchups there. So I think if you're looking for a longer term hold, maybe Gutherson is the shout. Let's just take some questions from the chat as well because I don't want to just keep rambling. And the last one is Tedesco. And around the price tag, Tedesco. So this is from John G. I mean, Teddy, look, he's busy. Scored 69 points, which did include a try, his first try of the season. Didn't include a line break though. So his only real attacking stats was a line break assist and a try. Let's see here. Oh, he didn't even get a line break assist. I thought he might have gotten a line break assist for Luke Keary's try. Obviously, apparently not. So really, his only attacking stats was, 34 plus tackle bust. So he got about 50 really outside of attacking stats. So pretty safe in terms of the base stats. But we're not quite seeing that explosive Teddy who's going to be cracking that 100 plus. I think he's going to be someone who is going to maybe continue to get like the 65 to 70s, which is good. Maybe the same as Gutherson. Draw-wise for the Roosters, I mean, Warriors away is not an easy game. Credit to the Warriors as well. Lots of injuries, but they still looked very solid against the Melbourne Storm. After that, you've got who you have. You've got Cowboys is looking pretty good. Cowboys at home. Oh, sorry, that's a Magic. That'll be Magic round, so we'll be up in Brisbane. Then you got Penrith away. Then the Dragons again before the bye. I kind of think if you are going down the fullback spot, I think there's maybe not enough between Tedesco and the Guthersons and Drinkwaters, which sounds crazy at this stage because we know Teddy's a gun. But I think I'd maybe just want to try to capitalise on a round 13 option, especially in a fullback spot where you have got a potential ceiling. So I'm thinking Drinkwater or Gutherson feel a bit more appealing than Tedesco. Like, I know Tedesco's had a pretty good game in terms of, he had a lot of those crabby type tackle busts where he got 16 points of tackle busts and things. But still, eye test wise, just not quite looking great. So I don't know. I feel like Teddy, you'd be buying him, I think, on the pedigree. My eye test is still telling me he's probably not quite the player that we think we have had over the last few seasons. So I still think I'd rather maybe, and look, this was my downfall in 2021 when I was trying to be cute with fullbacks and I went Gutherson over Turbo, and we all know how Turbo killed it, and that killed my season. So hopefully this isn't something that I'm repeating in terms of a mistake, but I don't know. I feel like Drinkwater or Gutherson could be maybe a better shout. Gutherson is a safer option in terms of base. Drinkwater's probably got a slightly higher ceiling. Turbo to Teddy, yeah, it was I think we've kind of addressed that. Would I sell Turbo or Walsh? I think I would probably be Turbo, I think, because Turbo is not going to be someone who, if he's fit, he'll play Origin, put it that way. So he's going to be out during that time. He's always a strong candidate for resting as well. One thing I will do when I come back from my little trip is, I think by the time I come back, will be around 10, 11. I'll definitely try to do a specific video on the buy schedule, but not even just around the buys, but also just around the timings. Players playing on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday, just a bit more of a deeper dive, just to try to analyze a little bit better in terms of potential restings and stuff like that, and a little bit deeper into the schedule. I would probably just hold Walsh. I mean, Walsh obviously had a quiet game, 38 points against Parramatta. Draw's not fantastic with the Rabbitohs, Manly, Melbourne and Penrith, and then before the Warriors in round 13. But like, if I look at those games, Souths and Penrith are the games that I don't think he'll score a lot of points. But Manly and Melbourne, they're still conceding points. Like, Melbourne conceded 22. Manly didn't look amazing. So I think Walsh, out of the two, I'd probably still be holding. Seeing a few questions about Eli Katoa. So obviously he got an injury. I'm sorry, I could not 100%. I missed the coverage. I was like half packing as well while I was watching the game. But he scored very low, didn't he? He scored like 21 points. I think he definitely, I know he got injured, but I don't know what this specific injury was. He will start losing cash. That's the problem, I think, as well. So I think this week, with a bye, it doesn't cover round 13. You can see Melbourne have got the bye there. Probably is an option, I think, where, you could probably sell. I think he's probably, just to answer Hamish's question, he's probably not quite at the tier, I think, of absolute keeper in the second row forward. So for me, probably does feel like one that you could move on. And in the 2RF, we've got options. Jack Bird is another one who I know people have been keen on. He scored quite well. He scored a try, but even without the try, I think. So just quickly jumping to the Roosters game. Sorry, I'm going to be all over the place, but I want to try to do a bit more specific Q&A, given that I can't really do much of it the rest of this week. So in terms of Jack Bird, if people are looking at a 2RF or even a centre wing, he does cover round 13. He scored 83 with that try, which wasn't a line break try. So if you take that out, you're looking at a score of, quick math, 66. So that's 66 points, which is really strong, like 32 tackled on the edge, 22 points in tackle bust. So lots of tackle busts. That does feel like a little bit of an outlier. If you were very, very conservative and you made that 8 points, you take away 14 points, you take away the try, you're still looking at a 52, which is kind of what he has been delivering. So for a 589k price tag, it's not too different from Eli Katoa, and he will cover round 13. So that is something that I do like, and he versus the Dolphins, so it's a good matchup. So Jack Bird is definitely an option if you're looking around the price tag. Seeing some shouts of Sean Lane. He scored 65, I want to say, from memory. Madison, we can obviously throw Madison into the equation as well. So Sean Lane has 724k. It's only his second game back though, so he won't change it in price. Oh no, sorry, he will. This is his third game, my bad. So he had a break even of 136, so he will go down quite a bit in price, and he probably will still have a high break even next week. Sean Lane is good in the sense that there's no, barring probably a crazy amount of injuries, probably no risk that he will be getting a origin call-up. Madison probably won't either from my feeling, but he has been involved in the squad. So there's a slight risk with Madison that he does feature in Origin. So if you're looking for a buy coverage option, Lane is safer in that regard. He scored well this week. He was offloading quite a bit. Now, I would say that there weren't good offloads from the eye test. Like, he was offloading, but they weren't really hitting the mark and stuff. So he got the offload points. But you can see here 6 points. So basically, more of his offloads were ineffective than effective. And that's kind of how it was looking watching the game as well. So if those start sticking, then obviously you're looking at a score closer to 70. And the offloading is what really made him a really good option at the back end of last season. And so really good, pretty healthy base, 22 points in runs plus 27. So you're looking at close to a 50 base, which is solid. Obviously has that potential for attacking stats outside of Dill Brown. So I like Sean Lane. He is going to be expensive though. Him and Madison, to be honest, are going to be around the same price. Madison scored 59, a bit of a quieter game from him. This is really the floor that you can probably expect from Madison. So I think I would just say Madison's probably going to be safer week on, week out, but slight risk of Origin. Sean Lane probably got a slightly higher ceiling. Well, actually, that's not necessarily correct. Madison does have a bit of a ceiling too, but Lane is probably more safer just for you can guarantee that he'll be playing through that Origin period. Just one thing on Eels players, if you are thinking about Eels players, the Guthersons, just be wary that they don't play round 14. They have a bye that week. That can be a tricky week because players will be coming back from Origin. There could be extra restings. So that is also a really important week to just think about with your squad build. So while the Eels are good for covering the major bye weeks, they cover round 13, 16 and 19. This round 14 bye is a little bit tricky to navigate if you're going Madison, Dill Brown, Gutherson, if you still own Hopgood, Matt Dury or Bryce Cartwright, all these guys. So that's something that I would just have a think about so you don't overload too much onto them. Nick Meaney. So I'm seeing some questions about Nick Meaney, turbo to Nick Meaney from Ian Johnson. I've underestimated Nick Meaney, I think, for the beginning of the season. I think someone asked me, should I sell Meaney to Toto a couple of weeks back? And I said, yeah, go for it. And he's been killing. He's been so good. And I think really noticeably when he was out for that 1 week, he does have a really good impact on that Melbourne Storm team. One, he's a good goal kicker, which is something that outside of him and Pappy, they don't really have. But he does seem really important for their attack and structure overall, in my opinion. So he's been actually really good for the Storm, but really good for Supercoach as well. It just pops up in the right places. So he scored a double today. Goal kicking is obviously amazing too. So he's been on a tear, absolutely killing it. So I think it's back-to-back tons now, I want to say. And he scored another ton before, 96, 103. Yeah, so he's basically, I remember in the preseason very specifically talking about Nick Meaney that he's not going to get you bad scores. He's like a 60 to 80 guy. I think 60% or 70% of his scores last year within that 60 to 80 bracket, but very rarely was getting the hundreds. Now, it's only a second ton, but he has got a 96, which we can essentially call a ton. So I think he's probably defied my expectations a little bit from preseason. Now, the issue with buying Nick Meaney this week is he's got to buy. So people are asking, I'm seeing footy edits asking turbo to Meaney. I would like Meaney. Doesn't cover round 13, but he also has a buy this week. So I think he's not going to be the option that you purchase this week, in my opinion. So yeah, for me, Nick Meaney, I think really good option that we can maybe reconsider when he comes back from his buy. But for this week, probably not going to be an option. And I guess it always comes down to as well the return of Pappenhausen. In terms of other Melbourne Storm options, maybe we could just do a quicker run through just because they do have the bye this week. So I think in terms of just an initial view of sells and holds, I think Eli Katoa, we kind of spoke about him already, probably is someone I think you can look to move on. Harry Grant. So I'm seeing a question from Steezers. Aman, is there a world where I can just hold Grant? Love that man, and there's just no other hooker near his level. I'll personally be holding Grant this week. I don't see myself selling. I can only really see myself selling, I think, maybe closer to round 13. Jeremy Marshall-King had another good game from a score perspective, but the thing is the Dolphins have the bye in round 11. So you're kind of going to be in the same position at that point anyway. So I'm thinking with him, I might just get to round 13 and reassess, and maybe I just sell for the best option there. But the thing is with Grant, no Brandon Smith. And the thing is, playing that Origin role with Ben Hunt, if he plays 40 minutes, there's a good chance that even when he comes back, he might play 50, 60 minutes, and he may just continue to back up. So he may just be someone I just continue to hold. So yeah, for me, I think Grant is one. I think if you can afford to, you can afford to hold. If you own Harry Grant, Sonny Luke, I think it's okay. Sonny Luke hasn't quite hit what I expected, but he's got a Tigers matchup this week, so there's a chance that he can get some attacking stats. I own Reid Marnie, so just going to my current team. So Marnie obviously wasn't great again this week, only 39, sorry. I had a 50-50 of him or Jackson Ford. Of course, I chose Marnie and lost out about 26 points, but that's all right. But yeah, I'll play Reid Marnie this week. I think he's got the Dragons. So I think if you've got Grant, I think you can hold. If you're a Munster owner, he had a really good game again this week. I think you can potentially hold him through as well because Isaiah Katoa has been pretty solid. And in terms of a matchup, he has got Canberra. So he's got Canberra, so there's still some chance of getting some stats, attacking stats, I should say. So I think if you're a Munster owner, if you bought him recently, you probably were aware of the round 9 buy. So I think your plan probably wasn't going to be to sell. So I think for Munster owners, I think you can probably look to hold him as well. And I think Katoa as a backup, I think this week is okay. A few people asked me what did I score. I scored 11.52, which was a pretty good score, I think, this week. I'm pretty happy with that. Turbo to Latrell. Yeah, look, I think if you can afford Latrell, he is going to be the fullback I think that you should go for, in my opinion. I think the draw looks really good from round 11, but we know the player, he's just a gun, and he can score well in any game. How do I get rid of that? Nico Hines again, of course, did very, very well. So, yeah, happy with him. Britton Nickera, if we were talking about second or forward options, he's very expensive now though, but he had another great game, was one of the Sharks' best attacking stats. He's 740k, so you are paying close to top dollar for him, but if you want a nice little pod in the 2RF position, Sharks have got a pretty nice run of games with Cowboys, Dolphins, Manly and Newcastle before the bye. So not playing the bye is not great, but I think if you're looking to just capitalize, like say you're a head-to-head player, interested in the buys, then yeah, Nickera could be an option. Another Storm player. We'll talk about front row forwards now. So Christian Welch is Welch's sell. So I do think I will continue to hold Welch this week. So he's the king of just getting 50 to 55, like no more, no less. Like he's just so consistent. Like I don't know how he does it. He must know that he must play SuperCoach and just be like, I'm just gonna hit, like, look at this bar. Like 50, like obviously this game was a bit of a down game, but outside of that round 1, 51, 55, 55, 50, 51, 54, like the man is just in mid 50s. So for me, I think I'll be holding. The trades I did last week were kind of meant for me to hold him because I traded out Mawali instead of Oitokumanu. So the intention was that this week I would play Gilbert and Oitokumanu when Christian Welch was out. Because I think most people were probably looking at doing Welch to Tarpany. So, for example, Ian saying Welch to who? I think Tarpany was probably the front row forward that most people were going to go for. Obviously, I had the bye this week, so no new numbers from him. But in terms of just what he's done previously, he's not been amazing. Put it that way. Like his minutes are slightly down. I think he's been averaging 50 minutes when I think last season he was really killing it, averaging around the 55. And, scores of 57, 61, 67, 63. Like, he's going to get you low 60s. And when you think about it, at the moment, Tarpany's getting maybe 5 points higher than Welch. And he's about 200k more expensive, or a little bit less than 200k. So I think you kind of need to weigh up. If you are going Welch to Tarpany covers round 13, which is good, obviously. And he's dual, so he's got some flexibility in there. But, I think you just need to weigh up the differential of, if you just were to roll out a Mawali or an Oitokumanu this week, they're probably going to get you 35, 40 tops. Tarpany, 65. So it's probably a 25 point gap there. Just need to make the decision of, is the trade and whatever funds or whatever moves you need to make to create the funds going to be worth it? That's probably just the question that I'd be answering. So I don't think he's a must sell because he's just ticking along very nicely, Christian Welch. But Tarpany's probably the one. I own Tom Gilbert. He's basically in the same mold as Welch as well, just mid-50s without any major attacking stats. Tohu doesn't look like an option. It looks like he's re-aggravated, unfortunately, that MCL. So I think Tohu owners, he's probably going to be someone you're looking to sell. You'd probably be selling Tohu to Tarpany, I think, this week. Payne Haas did have a quieter game finally, sorry owners, but as a non-owner of Payne Haas, it was nice to see him have a lower score. Oh yeah, that's right as well. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Payne Haas are going to be out for a week as well. So lots of people are going to have front row forward dramas this week. No Haas, no Christian Welch. Yeah, I think, to be honest, given the state of front row forward this week, if you can afford to just hold Welsh and just roll out and not have to make moves there, you're probably going to be in a similar boat to a lot of other people. And I think, yeah, the upside of trading in another front row forward is probably not high enough, where I think if you're looking at front row forward options this week, maybe the first thing you should ask yourself is, do I need to make this move? If so, then fine, you can start thinking about who to go to, maybe Joe Taps. But I don't know. A lot of people, I think, are going to have front row forward issues this week. So, actually, I'm seeing someone mention Manly. So if you are interested in a front row forward, a Manly prop who is doing quite well is, I think it's Sipley. That's right. Sorry. Toafofoa, is that how you pronounce it? I hope I'll pronounce that correctly. We'll just say Sipley, just so I don't get it wrong. But Sipley has been ticking on very nicely. He's a very cheap price, 359k. He'll go up a little bit to maybe 380k, but he's got an average of 51, so not very different to Christian Welch. Now, granted, it's only a 2-game sample size, but 51 and then a 63 this week. The 63 I don't think came with any real attacking stats. I'm pretty sure it was all just in work rate. Yeah, so he had 10 tackle bust points, which is obviously quite a lot, and offloads, but more or less, like if I look at the runs plus tackles, it's 42 in straight base. It's not great. It's okay. It's fine. For 359k, it's fine. So Sipley could be an option. Manly cover round 13 as well. So he could maybe be someone that you consider. He played 43 minutes last week. I'm just going to have a quick look at his minutes this week. So just give me a second. Player stats for Manly. He played 45 minutes this week. So I wonder if his things were just inflated. Otherwise, Taniela Paseka is another one who's been doing okay. He's priced around the Welch price, 54 points. So he's doing very similar output to Welch as well, and an average of 54. So I think Manly props is ones to consider. I think if you're going for, if you're not looking to spend a lot of money in your front row forward, maybe, you wouldn't probably want to sell Haas, but if you're happy to get rid of Welch, not change too much in price or budget, you can maybe go to someone like a Paseka, averaging 54. Pretty sure he hasn't got really any major attacking stats, and he's around the same price, and he covers round 13. So that may be an option as well, because if you think about it, if he's averaging 54 and Taps is averaging 10 more, but he's costing like 150k more, that 150k could be really useful somewhere else in your team. So yeah, Paseka and Sipley may be two options to consider as well from the Manly ones. And as Mudcrab says, Paseka passes the eye test. So I think Hamish, to answer your question, if you're thinking about Sipley, Paseka is probably a bit more safer. I think he starts compared to Sipley, who's been coming off the bench. A bit more of a sample size with Paseka as well. Woods out as well. Him and Kepi should get more minutes next week. I didn't actually hear about Aaron Woods being out next week, but I must have missed that. But yeah, look, if that's the case, then yeah, probably a few extra minutes for the middles at Manly. Is Charnson Cook start a hold? So we kind of spoke about him a little bit already. So he will miss 3 of the next 4. But I believe he scored well again today. He looked good again, 79 points. So it's just unfortunate that he's got that failed HIA and he's going to be out for the next 2 weeks probably. But he scored well, 79 points. I think he had a low break even as well, didn't he? He had a 35 break even, so he's going to go up again in price. I don't know. I kind of think he looks like someone who would be I was very keen on him a couple of weeks ago. Couldn't end up doing it. But I think if I owned him, I'd be tempted to hold him because he covers round 13, and centre wing is a position I think you can afford to hide guys because you're generally going to have a bit more depth because you've got 7 spots to play with. So if you need to roll out like a Khan Pereira or a Warbrick, not a Warbrick this week, but like a Taruva, there are some rumours, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've seen some rumours on Twitter of potentially Isaac Thungo being out with a pec injury. Potentially could be out 4 to 6 weeks. I've seen some rumblings of that. I have no strong evidence behind that, so don't take that as fact, but it is something I've seen. So look, potentially there could be a cheapie centre at Penrith. With Ruben Garrick moving to centre. Someone asked earlier in the chat as well about why that is the case. I can honestly tell you I have no idea why. All I know is in the preseason there was some talk about him moving to centre. So maybe they've just done that net this week. And I think that rookie winger who played last week when Garrick was out from the HIA, was it Viega? I think he should probably be the one who comes back. And in terms of his price, let's have a look, see here if I'm spelling it correctly. Yeah, 243k. So he scored 11 on his first game, so not great. So he's not going to be probably a massive moneymaker. It just could be a downgrade. I think if you get your team list tomorrow, I think someone's asking, I believe they come out at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I think I read that from Tom Sangster. So yeah, 11 a.m. tomorrow, I think, when you might get your team list tomorrow. If Jared Croker gets named again, I'm sure he's going to be a popular downgrade. So in terms of Nickel Klukside, I would be tempted to hold because he's just looking like a good, solid option. And I think you just need to ride out the kind of next couple of weeks, hopefully, if you can cover it. If you can't afford to hold, I think it's fine to sell because he's not got like a massive negative break even. And he is at a value where he's like maybe 520, 530k after the price rise. You know, him down to Jared Croker, if that lets you fund a nice upgrade of in your front of forward, or your, like, say, Eli Katoa to like a Madison or something, that's the kind of situation I'd say, yeah, you know what, it's probably fine. And you can always look to bring him back potentially in round 13. So I think it's kind of just depends on your team setup. I know the most generic possible answer, isn't it? It's all team dependent, but it really is, I guess. From Rust and Mouse, Marzu at hold or pick up Garrick or Manu. So Marzu was again solid, scored a line break try, so ended up on about 67 points, which I'm happy with. So the base stats were about 40, so -1 in tackles, but 15 in tackle bust if you include that, plus 27 in runs, so about 42 in base power, which is fine. It's a pretty good numbers there for Marzu. And I'm liking what the Knights are doing. The Knights are playing well. I think Ponga coming back, he looked pretty good on his return. So I think Newcastle, a buy in round 10 isn't great. So I think if you're buying new, I probably wouldn't go to Marzu just with that buy coming up in round 10. I'd maybe be looking to jump on him after that. But see, again, this is the thing. The Knights do have that round 14 buy. So Miller, Marzu owners, myself included, in round 14, we are going to have a little bit of a headache because we'll have Manly, Parramatta, and Newcastle all having that buy. There's a lot of players that we own. So yeah, this is probably something to maybe just weigh up a little bit, I think, this week, if you are looking to jump into some of those round 13 players. Ian says if Thungo's out, Taruva might actually get some ball if he isn't out with an ankle injury. Yeah, that's another thing. Obviously, Taruva kind of just innocuously rolled over his own ankle and had to leave the game early. So we'll have to wait and see. I think NRL Physio said it wasn't major, so hopefully it's not too bad. All right, we've been going for 33 minutes. It's more than I wanted to go for, but we'll go for another 5 minutes, I think. Hopefully we tried to cover off some of the bigger talking points, I think, this week, because if anyone's joining late, I don't want to keep ramming it down, but yeah, I'll be away for the next probably week and a half just traveling, so it'll be very difficult to make good content. So kind of the reason why I wanted to do the stream today as well. And if you're enjoying the stream so far, do please give it a like as well. Alex Johnston time very soon. Yeah, Johnston did score 90 points, I think, against Penrith, so without a try. Now that is surprising. 3 line breaks, a line break assist, lots of runs. He is cheap, 546k. That's a good price. I don't mind the shout, Matthew. Alex Johnson time very soon. And yeah, look, if Latrell's humming along, Cody's humming along, always going to be good for AJ. I think so far this season, they've really just been better on the right-hand side. But we know that the Rabbitohs traditionally are focused on their left-hand side attack. So, Broncos Melbourne obviously a little bit tougher, but both teams are liable to conceding points. And then, yeah, Tigers round 11 is good. Parramatta, Canberra, Titans, Dragons. It's not a bad little run there for AJ. Don't mind him. And yeah, look, again, if you're looking for a downgrade, he's not listed at fullback. That's a bit of a pain. So you can only really get him in your centre wing. Thinking of Turbo to Moga. Yeah, so I didn't really speak about Moga yet from the Dragons. Now he picked up an arm injury as well, but I suspect he'll be, whenever he plays or whenever he gets named, he'll be a very popular buy because, look, price-wise, not fantastic at 493k, but he's gotten back-to-back tons, or he's got 98 and then 112, so he'll have a very low break-even. And a bit of a nice story with Moga coming back, because he obviously had like 4 major knee injuries, something pretty terrible. So yeah, he'll have a very low break even. And if he does play this week, Dragons do have Bulldogs, Tigers and Cowboys in the next 3. And he covers round 13. So he could be a little smoky you go for over the little next while, maybe as a round 13 play, and then maybe you just trade him out. Maybe he's made 200k and then you can trade him then to like another center wing gun. So yeah, I mean, I don't always trust the Dragons in attack. This week they obviously, like the Anzac Day clash, they're always up for that game. So it's kind of hard to see if that's what they're going to deliver up week on week out, or is that just like a kind of increasing the performance. Nikhil Klukstad to Critter. So Stephen Crichton, he did have a very good week this week. He scored a hat-trick. I mean, he seems to love just playing the Rabbitohs. And he was goal kicking, which did inflate his score a little bit. Cleary wasn't goal kicking because he had a groin niggle. I suspect next week he'll be fine and goal kicking. I've heard some rumours as well that the Panthers have been pulling out a lot of guys from New South Wales Cup to manage these niggles in the Panther squad. So I don't know. It could be just like who knows, if Cleary gets not named this week, it's going to be carnage in Supercoach. It's going to be absolutely carnage. But in terms of Critter, I don't love the pick because up until that 148, I don't really think he was doing much, really. So I feel like it is somewhat chasing points. Like his high score before that was 85, to be fair. Just a bit inconsistent for my liking. Oh yeah, and obviously some news with Jack Whiten going to the Rabbitohs seems to all be confirmed. So good stuff for the Rabbitohs, getting a gun in Whiten there. They'll probably move Whiten to left centre, I suspect. They probably wouldn't out Cody Walker from 5'8". When will lockout finish? I have no idea, but I suspect sometime tomorrow morning. And I believe TLT will be 11 a.m. tomorrow. If it's not, then it's probably going to be at 4 o'clock, but I'm not 100% sure. Alright guys, I think we're going to wrap up the stream there because I need to wake up at a ungodly time at about 2 something. So I'll probably will try to head to bed now. But hopefully you'll enjoy that slightly shorter stream. But good luck for the week ahead if I can't get back to you and all your trade plans and stuff. I'll be mid-air when TLT drops, so I'll have to check it out when I land and see what's happened and what's the carnage. But yeah, content obviously a little bit limited over the next couple of weeks. But hopefully you all can rely on plenty of other great podcasters out there. And if any questions, still hit me up on Twitter. It'll be easier for me to respond on Twitter as well, to be honest, than YouTube. But we'll try to answer questions, and I'll try to at least give updates on what I'm thinking for teams and Q&As and all that kind of stuff still. So we'll try to still help you guys out as much as we can. But yeah, I'll enjoy my little trip and I'll come back, and then we'll be back to regularly scheduled programming. All right, guys, if you enjoyed it, give the stream a like on the way out, and we'll catch you all probably in a couple of weeks. See you then.